Hi, 341 students. I'm here to talk about an extra credit experience that's worth 3 points. Totally optional, don't have to do it, but if you're interested in making sure that you're not borderline or getting out of a borderline category, might be of real benefit to you. So here I'm making reference to what's called the Montreal Cognitive Assessment test, and here it is. This is our MOCA. And of course, it's on our home page. All you want to do is perhaps print it off, maybe send it to someone if you're doing this through some kind of Zoom session or FaceTime, something of that nature. But nonetheless, you might want to walk through it yourself, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to walk you through the MOCA. Normally, if I'd be meeting with you in class, we would go over it in class, and then you would need a week or two to finish it with grandparents or parents, someone significantly older. You want to test their memory, see how they're doing. And so for the first task, this is one that entails using numbers and letters. So for instance, you would tell them, take a pencil, don't lift it from the page, and connect the number 1 with the letter A. And then they would continue to do it. You would not tell them what to do next. They need to think about, hey, you know, A is the first letter in the alphabet, second letter in the alphabet is B, and third is C, and so on. The next task has to do with looking at the drawing of the cube and then reproduce it. So you can see there'd be a lot of parallel lines, some dimensions that they have to be aware of, and usually people do pretty good at reproducing the cube. Third task has to do with drawing a clock, an old-time clock, and not a digital clock. So this would be try to indicate 10 minutes past 11. And so they'd probably want to use a small hand for the hour, a larger hand or dial for the minutes. And they also want to demarcate the front of the clock, the timepiece. And so that would be worth 3 points. Then moving on to naming common animals, in this case, you would ask them to look at the animals, no cues, no help from you, just to name them. So they would have to name the lion, the rhino, the camel, and so on. Third has to do with memory for words. And so you could even practice this with them a couple of times. For instance, the word face, velvet, church, daisy, red. Ask them to repeat it after you, maybe go through it a couple times, and then tell them, hey, in about 5 minutes, I'm going to ask you to remember, without any help from me, those 5 words. Then moving on, attention. You're going to look at some numbers. You're going to read them, a sequence of numbers. So for instance, 21854, and they're to repeat it in that same order, the forward order. Then you get a little tricky, just 3 numbers, 742, they're going to have to reverse it and say 247, no help from you, right? Say, okay, 742, reverse it, what did I say? And so next you're moving on to some letters, and in this case it's just a whole list of random letters, but you're going to ask them to tap whenever they hear the letter A. So whenever you read the letter A, so FBA, tap. MNAA, 2 taps, and so on. And of course, you scoring them, it's an easy task. It's just 1 point, but hopefully they'll be able to move from there. The next gets a little trickier. It requires some use of the working memory, and it is to subtract 7 points from 100, and then from that result, 7 points from 93, 7 points from 86, and so on and so on. You do it 5 times, and hopefully, if they're pretty good with subtraction, they would be able to master that task easily. Again, it's worth several points, 3 points in this case. So the other task is the language task. And here you're just going to read 2 brief sentences and have them repeat them word for word. So for instance, I only know that John is the one to help today. And then immediately after, they need to repeat it. Or the cat hid under the couch when dogs were in the room. And again, they just need to repeat it to understand, to show they understand what you said and the meaning. So another task, fun task, is to give them 1 minute to name as many words as they can that begin with the letter F in 1 minute. And so you'd say, okay, I'm going to start my little timer or whatever, and then fun, fabulous, fantastic, fountain, and so on. Hopefully no curse words, but nonetheless, that would be the fluency with language, words. Next, we move to abstraction. You're going to ask them to think about categories. So for instance, what's the similarity between a banana and an orange? The similarity is both fruits, right? Then the task you're going to give them is tell me the similarity between a train and a bicycle. Correct answer, modes of transportation. What's the similarity between watch and ruler? Mechanisms for measurement, right? Then, that should be pretty easy, straightforward, delayed recall. We're back to that list of the 5 words that you'd rehearsed with them earlier: face, velvet, church, daisy red. And so hopefully they'll be able to recall that. Sometimes when people do the task, they're having trouble with maybe remembering one word. Maybe you can give them some cues. Ideally, they get 5 points straight up for remembering the 5 words, but you could give them a category cue if they're stuck on something like, oh, I can't remember, there was some building, and so you might say religion or something like that. And then multiple choice cue. So you say, okay, I'm going to just make up 5 words. Tell me with these 5 words which one is the proper one, if they couldn't remember 1 or 2. And then include in your list of made up words 2 that are the right ones. And then finally, you're going to do an orientation. You're going to ask them, hey, what is the date today, the month, the year, the day, the place, the city? They get a point for each one. And then the total, the optimal score would be 30. What you want to do is evaluate the range, right? And so, of course, anything from 26 to 30 is good memory, no problems. If they're, 25 or 24, maybe just slightly mild memory problems or maybe some language issues, that's okay. But if they're down 19 to 20, that could be an indicator of some serious problems. And of course, this relates to our chapter on aging, and in particular, our deep consideration of a problem like Alzheimer's disease. And so if you have a grandparent, you're a little concerned maybe about their capacity to negotiate everyday tasks, this is one way to get at where in their memory things are starting to go south. And so what you need to do is, of course, have this form completed. Do it by the end of the month and send it in to me. You can scan it or take a picture, hopefully not with an iPhone because the HEIC doesn't seem to work on my desktop computer. So take a picture of it or scan it in your printer and so on and send it in so you get your 3 extra credit points. And hey, it's also a nice little tool to use for any family and friends that you're concerned about in terms of memory. And so hopefully this is a good orientation to this particular task, and look forward to seeing what you've uncovered with your investigation of family, friends, people that you can work with easily online who are significantly older than you. So please don't send me your little brother or little sister's score. That, doesn't really count because they're encountering these tasks in school all the time and they've got really strong memories anyway. Nonetheless, when you're looking at your point totals, if you're working with someone who has 12 years or less of education, you can add a point, because maybe they didn't encounter all of this in their education. Nonetheless, what you want to do is adjust it by giving them an extra little bit of a bump up, 1 point up, for if they don't have some college or something like that. All right, so let me know if you have questions. I'm easily available through the Canvas email system, and good luck with it. Really looking forward to seeing what you've done. And once again, it's totally optional. You do not have to do the MOCA if you do not want to, but hey, I hope you do. Bye-bye.